Hello and welcome at our GCP-Mindset channel. Today we speak about a very interesting and important topic. It's about communication in clinical trials. And I have my expert Pagona with me again.
Hello, Andreas. Nice to be back.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Pagona, thank you very much for being here to speak with me about communication. Last time we met, we spoke about vendor management, which was important, but communication is even more important because it belongs to every department, every part in a clinical trial. I know that you also train people in this topic. Tell me why it's so important.
Well, communication is not only important in clinical trials, it's important in every aspect of our lives. One can easily say that it's equal of a need as we need air to breathe. So it's communication. It's a natural way of, just exchanging information, ideas, thoughts, feeling, and progressing in our lives and fulfilling our roles. In clinical trials, it's even more important because we function in an international level and we need to find ways of actually going to the intended results. And in order to do that, we need to differentiate between communication and effective communication, because what we need in the clinical research world is effective communication, which, as I said before, it's the one who takes us to the desired results. With effective communication, we build trust, we solve our problems in a different way, the relationships that we have in our professional life are even stronger, our professional image, it becomes even better, and it takes us to the next step. Most importantly, it highlights the need for change and how we can implement change and how we reduce resistance to change, because we are creatures of habit sometimes and we don't want to change. All this is accommodated by effective communication.
Okay, so it's a very human topic. I always consider clinical research as a people business. Yeah, many people think it's medical business or scientific business. I always said it's people business where people act with people, and therefore communication is also so important. And you mentioned already some human skills you need to have, and therefore I completely agree, it is important.
Absolutely.
The funny thing is, when you ask people how good is your communication skill, most people would say close to perfect. Do you agree?
Of course, there are people that they do strongly believe that they are perfect communicators, but there are two things happening there. One important thing is that there is a vast lack of self-reflection, and also this is topped up with some misconceptions that people have of what actually good, effective communication is. So lack of self-reflection is something that it's so prominent, and people do not even stop for a minute to think, do I listen carefully? Do I delegate appropriately? Do I send clear messages? Do I give enough details to my team members to do what they're supposed to be doing? Do I check if this has happened? So this is lack of self-reflection. This, topped up with some miscommunications, has really negative results. Some miscommunications may be that communication is very simple. Just because everyone does it doesn't make it simple. On the contrary, it can be very difficult. Or they believe that communication starts from the minute the message is sent. The message may be received, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it was understood. So therefore, again, communication did not happen. Or if they believe that fluency in language allows for better communication. It may be the opposite. When someone is fluent and they use too many words to explain something, they may be confusing.
Otherwise, native speaker would always better communicators than non-native speakers.
Well, this is a stereotype. Sometimes they can be, sometimes they, because they assume that the other person as well, they will understand everything. They may use jargon, they may use some words that they're not so familiar. Actually, there's been some research that highlighted that in international teams where there are no native speakers, or the language of communication is a second language for everyone, the results of communication is much better because they use simple words, they try to be very direct to their points, they don't exhaust in details. So fluency doesn't necessarily mean that you are a good communicator.
Yeah, just sounds better.
Yeah, exactly. And more confident. Yeah.
Okay, very interesting. Pagona, you train people in communication, especially groups in clinical research, and you don't teach them how to speak better English, but how to communicate more effectively. Do you think that communication in clinical research in particular is more important than in other businesses?
Communication is important in every business. In clinical research, I would say that it's a little bit more challenging because we have to face specific challenges. And one of the major challenges is language. We communicate in English because this is the official international language of clinical research. But for most of us who work in clinical research, this is our second, maybe our third language. And of course, people who even speak the same mother language, they have problems understanding each other. Regional accents, difference in generations, difference in intellectual level, educational level. So all these are very challenging. Of course, with different language comes different culture and everything that culture brings with it. There is an interesting book that it's called The Culture Map. I have to thank you about this book because you suggested I should read it. And in there is a very interesting distinction between how different cultures use the language in terms of how many words they use to talk and to explain and to describe and communicate. So it differentiates between low context and high context languages. And we should see it on a map level. So when you go to the west side of the planet, to the States, for example, it's the low context. It means that we need to say a lot. We need to have really long emails, really long proposals. Our contracts are very extensive. Every detail needs to be there. So the one who actually delivers the message is responsible for the message to reach the recipient in a very accurate way. Whereas if you move to the east side of the planet, it's the exact opposite. There, you don't talk a lot. You don't write a lot. It becomes an issue of trust as well. In some regions, people work on gentleman agreement and handshake agreement rather than having contracts. They may take offense when you want to put everything in a contract. So this kind of impairs the language to be used in an extensive way. And this is called high context. So mainly you need to sniff the air and listen to what it's being implied rather than to what it's being said. And of course, if you combine all this, you can understand that in an international level, it can cause really friction because we need to find a way to communicate. So, of course, again, because we function on an international level and our teams are multinational and we have too many languages, too many cultures, I would say that we should really go towards low context. Say a little bit more. It's better if we say a little bit more rather than missing information and then losing trust. Although, we'll just stop here because I wanted to say another word, but I'll say a little bit more, yeah? I'll continue, yeah. Also is how we deliver our messages, how many words we use. Do we use too many details? Do we extend, we are confusing. Sometimes we try to explain and we end up confusing the other person. These are also different problems that may arise and make the communication more challenging. Another major issue is the times. We need to work with partners across the planet. So this morning, actually, we had a meeting with our Australian partners. For us, it was the beginning of the day. We started at 7. For some of us, it was a little bit too early as well. We were sleepy. Some other were fresh. But our Australian partners were at the end of their day. It was 5 p.m. for them. So they were tired and they just wanted to get out of the office, go back home and relax. And we need to agree on business. We need to find a way to work there. So all these are challenges that we face in clinical research.
Yeah. And according to your own experience, meaning you are coming from Greece, you moved then to the UK, lived and worked there for a couple of years. Now you're in Germany and communicate, of course, a lot with Germans. What do you think about German communication? I mean, we try to simplify things. We are very direct. But I know from my own experience, for many, many people, it's too direct. Would you agree?
Well, when you need to comment about something, you need to compare it with something else. Yeah. So if you compare German with English, then yes, it's translated in a way that it's a little bit aggressive, it's a little bit intense, it's a little bit abrupt. Me coming from Greece, I I can easily say that I don't find it at all aggressive. I find it clear, very direct, and you always know what you're dealing with.
Yeah. So British people would never say, even so something is really bad, British people would not say it's bad.
No, absolutely not. No, you will never really hear a clear no from British people. That's considered more aggressive and abrupt in a sense. They kind of use longer sentences. Sometimes the language allows as well. It's the vocabulary that you use and the grammar that makes things a little bit lighter, but it's cultural.
Okay, Pagona, when you train people in communication, people who are usually coming from the medical field or scientific field in communication, and do you use then a particular model to simplify the communication, also to show them what's the problem with bad communication in clinical research?
Yes, we do use a particular model. It's called the Hartman personality profile, or otherwise color code or color profile. It has different names. It is a sort of assessment, we call it a test, that it has been devised by Dr. Hartman some years ago. And this test assumes 4 main personality/communication types, and that correspond to one color.
But it also shows that personality and communication belongs very closely together.
Absolutely. That was my next comment, actually, that because you belong to this particular color, it's how you see yourself in your surroundings and consequently how you communicate. Yeah. We use this as a tool to pick up signals and signs from the other person with the intention to avoid conflict. Because we believe that when people are in conflict, they mainly destroy and tear apart rather than building things together and progressing. Of course, you can always learn by mistakes, but it's better if you can avoid making the mistakes in the first place. So back to the test, the 4 main colors that it actually comes out in the results are red, blue, green, and yellow. And every color has a list of different adjectives that describe the way that one behaves. We can summarize a little bit about every color. We start with red. So a red personality type communicates in a very specific way. They are very strong as people. They are very confident. They are the leading people in a team, the ones who make the decisions. They are really fast. They like speed. For them, speed means quality as well. They don't really like about details. They are very convincing. You don't need to pay much attention to spot them in the group because they don't really hide. Yeah, you can see them coming, walking down the corridors in the offices. They will convince you that this is the truth, the way that they say it. So, and for them, there are only 2 ways of doing things. It's either their way or the wrong way. They're so strong-willed. Of course, we need them in the team because they're the driving force. You cannot really have a healthy business unless you have some red person leading the business and driving everyone ahead. Yeah? Then we have the yellow people. So the yellow people are equally outgoing and very pleasant like the red people, but they live to have fun. They are not so oriented in tasks and they don't really want to work a lot. Yeah? They prefer luxurious lifestyles. They don't really see things as issues, as problems. They have so much positive energy into them that they believe that everything will be solved by its own way, with a magical way. They make really fast decisions, but these decisions are no really thinking behind this decision. It's very spontaneous what they do. There is no thinking process. They are very charming. They will always find really nice words to say to people. They communicate easily. They make relationships. They will give you compliments. They are good listeners. And it's really important to have them in the team because they are the out-of-box thinkers. They are the ones who will find new solutions to very old problems, and they will see something that works, whereas other people see nothing. They see gaps in there. Yeah. Then we have the green people. The green people represent the majority of the population. I don't want to say you ignore them, but they are so quiet that you're not really going to pay much attention to them. They are very easygoing personalities. They go with the flow. They are all for team. They will give their best. They will do the job. You can trust them to do the job. They don't complain. They will always build relationships in a way that you will feel protected, and they will help you. And you definitely need to have them in the team because they become the solid foundation. They are the rock of the team. You can't build a team unless you have a solid foundation, and these are the green people. And then at the end, we have the blue people who are very intellectual, very detail-oriented. They really like quality. They always analyze, they want details, they collect data. They are very focused on quality, and they're very quiet at the same time. A blue person knows very well what they're doing. They have extensive knowledge. They will give you solutions. They will not voluntarily give you solutions. They will not show off. And if you try to praise them, they will be very surprised because they think that they just do their job. They don't feel arrogant about what they do and what they offer. And when you have blue people in the team, immediately you know that you are in a good track and you have valid, solid, concrete answers for everything. You don't need to double check anything that the blue person will tell you.
Okay, but when I listen to you, it sounds a little bit like the blue people are the smarter ones, the yellow people are the dumb people, but it has nothing to do with IQ.
No.
So it's just personality and the way they communicate.
Exactly. It's the way that you express yourself. It has nothing to do with IQ. We're not measuring IQ. No, not at all. It's just that the way you choose to communicate and what you like doing, how you behave as a person.
Okay, when you speak about teams, I think important to understand is that a team is a group of people who do something together. It's not just a group of people, but they should do something together to reach a certain result. And I can imagine also for the team building, the color model is important, isn't it?
Of course it is important, especially when you need to think of what kind of colors you want and you need to have in the team. So the answer is you need everything. You need all the colors to get the best possible dynamic. Where it becomes a bit complicated is when the colors start interacting with each other. So we can talk about good combinations, complementary combinations, where different colors kind of match and the best comes out. And that would be a blue person with a green person to start with. These two colors they have a slow pace, they take their time, they speak the same language when they are together. Yeah, it may take them a bit more time to make decisions because they need to collect their data, they need to have a bit more convincing information, they need to feel more secure. But at the end of the day, the decision will be very robust and it will have good results. At the same level, a really good combination is red and yellow because they have the same energy, which is quite intense. They are really fast. They both want to shoot from the hip. They are so intense and they want to go to the goal. And this dynamic is really complementary. Sometimes it can be tricky with these two because a red person may get a little bit annoyed with the yellow person excitement and so on and so forth, or because the yellow person is really talkative. But because they're both not so good listeners, then they don't really bother a lot. If we think more of tasks, because what I said now, it refers to relationships and how they can be with one another. But when we think of tasks and workload, then the good combinations are slightly different. So a blue person with a red person, despite the fact that they appear very opposite in their energies and their paces, they really complement each other because the red person is really focused on the results and they don't really care about the process, whereas the blue person is really focused on the process. So they are a good combination because they think of completion of tasks. They're not going to waste their time. They're not going to talk about football or whatever. So they will be very productive in that respect. When you think of this combination, you should think of a car. So the red color is the accelerator and the blue color is the brake. You need both to drive the car. The problem may come when you step at both pedals at the same time, yeah, and there may be friction. Equally, when we think of tasks and relationships, then blue-red is the one combination, yellow and green is the other combination, which is a little bit surprising because they are very different in the way that they behave and their energy and their pace.
It's yellow and green or yellow and blue?
Yellow and green.
Okay.
Yeah, it was blue and red, task-oriented, and then yellow and green. Yes, we did not mix it. So yellow and green, they are very interested in each other because they are so much different. The green person tolerates everything from the yellow person. They may get a little bit annoyed, but at the same time, they get flattered by the yellow person who shows their interest, who pays compliments to them, shows them that they care, and so on and so forth. And at the same time, the yellow person has a really good friend with the green person that they can count on, they will do the job. So this combination works quite well as well. Because they are not so focused on workload sometimes, they may end up having a good time rather than being too productive. But you're not going to have friction with these two.
Okay. So when you have a team who meets every day or on a weekly basis, but they don't progress, they don't show up with results, it might be that you have a wrong mixture of the people in the team. Maybe it's too blue-green, that they don't like to make decisions. Therefore, they meet to discuss everything, reevaluate everything, but at the end of the day, they don't bring it on the street.
Exactly, because there is the dynamic of the yellow and red person to make decisions.
Okay, and then as a team leader, your job would also be to put then in the, for example, a red person.
Exactly, or act as a red person yourself.
Yeah.
Because when you are a team lead, you need to have at least a minimum element of red.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you can't really lead the team.
Yeah, otherwise you have a team but no result.
Yeah, exactly, because you don't have an active leader to navigate the team, of course.
Okay. Yes. Okay, we spoke a lot about team building, which is important, of course, but do you have also examples for particular positions? Clinical monitor, for example, data manager. What kind of color they should have preferable to communicate effectively?
Well, the different types of color should really depend on the different demands of the tasks to be performed by every job description. If you think of clinical monitors and the change that we've been through the last few years with all the corona restrictions and all the risk monitoring that we end up doing, and of course the advancements in technology that we don't necessarily need to look at papers constantly, and SDV everything, we use more of an electronic platform media to do our SDVs, then I would say that the clinical monitor should be more friendly, should be more accommodating, should work as a chaperone to the PIs and the investigational sites, of course, to help them perform their duties, but at the same time be there to support them. And that would make them a green person predominantly with some elements of red just to keep the ball rolling as well, because they would need encouragement.
Yeah. And also blue, just to understand the data.
Absolutely, the minimum amount of blue. Yeah. Yes, yes.
And do I understand then correctly, 20 years ago when you said we had less technology, for example, we didn't speak about risk-based monitoring at that time, the more preferable color would be blue.
200% blue, if we want to be precise. Absolutely. Because everything we needed to be to the T, as we usually say. You compare screen and save data with the paper, with the handwritten notes of the study nurse, and it needed to be identical.
Yeah, okay. And red?
Red?
Red color, for what kind of position would be the red color most important?
Well, the ones who have a bit more of a leading position in the team. A project manager, for example.
Okay.
Yeah? Because they need to have this driving force to motivate people.
Yeah.
To have the courage to make decisions, to inspire people. And this comes with a red person. Not fully red, because they can be a little bit intimidating as well. So maybe motivation is not going to work, because people may feel a little bit threatened. So a good balance of red with some hints of blue, because they need to check for quality as well, would be absolutely great in a project manager.
Okay. And do you also have somebody in mind who should be more yellow?
Yellow. I'm thinking of people who would do quality assurance.
Yeah.
Should be a little bit more yellow, because there not fully yellow. Quality assurance is implementing processes, is making sure that you do preventive actions in order to not end up doing corrective actions. And there you definitely need to be friendly to people, to be able to build the relationships, to inspire them, and everything to feel like it's a game. It's something that they will need to do. So definitely the quality assurance person who ensures quality assurance, they need to have elements of yellow, for sure, and a little bit of blue, because they need to make sure the details are correct as well.
Yeah. Okay, then we need to jump, I think, back to the team building. So when you have a QA department, it should not be a department full of yellow people.
No.
But there also need to be people who have a little bit of yellow to think about more effective methods to ensure quality, to improve training processes, for example.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Okay.
This is when we talk about quality assurance. But when we talk about quality control, there we need to be more bluish.
Yeah.
Then we need to pay attention to detail.
Yeah. But on the other side, it means every department would profit or benefit from a yellow person to rethink about the methods we use already for many years. Yeah, even if you set up an EDC system, we could ask ourselves, is it really the best EDC system for this study? Or when we speak about a monitoring plan, is it not do we have a better method to do clinical monitoring or remote monitoring or whatever? It's always a part who we evaluate the processes we used in the past.
Indeed, indeed. And if you remember at the beginning when we were talking about each color separately, the main characteristic from the yellow person is that they always see a solution to an old problem. They are the out-of-box thinkers. At the same time, they make people feel good about themselves because they are really charming and they really bring the best out of people. And they make work fun.
Okay.
So it's a combination of really important things that you need to have in the team. Yeah. So thumbs up to the yellow people in the team for sure, and in every department.
Yeah, okay. Do you have also colors who should not put in one team because they just don't match, they also can't work together?
Yes, and actually when we think of team building, what we should do in terms of bringing people together, we should change our thinking a little bit and think of what we should not do, what kind of colors we should not bring together. And the main example, the main combination that can be catastrophic is a blue person with a yellow person. Here, the distance is so extended that the possibility of them being able to work together is minimal. The friction that will be caused from the beginning, it's really phenomenal. The yellow person will jump directly into a task without even understanding what the task is all about. They don't really care about details. They will not ask questions. They will just start doing something. They have no idea what they're doing. At the same time, the blue person is focusing already on details and they try to concentrate. And they get annoyed by seeing the yellow person do whatever they want. And then you have issues. The blue person also is very quiet in their expressions, which is the exact opposite from a yellow person. So the blue person will get annoyed from the yellow person talking all the time. And they will start building anger into them. The yellow person, because they are really sensitive in these behavioral cues, they pick it up and they think that they need to talk even more to charm the blue person. And this is what they do. But this becomes even more annoying. So what you will end up having with the blue and the yellow person is two people at two different corners of a room being annoyed for different things. And this is where the disaster comes.
Okay, Pagona, you train now for a couple of years already people in this model, in this color model. What's your experience with that? Do they understand it? Do they accept it? Do they also see themselves somehow in the color model? If they eat the whole day green, they need to be green.
People get pleasantly surprised even to do the test in the first place and have some conclusions about themselves. So they're very open. Although a test assessment, it may be a little bit frightening at the beginning because they feel they're doing some sort of exam. When we end up discussing about it in the training, then it makes sense to them and they're very open. So we go through different stages. At the beginning, people start looking at themselves. They have explanations about their behavior because now they can assign this behavior to the particular color or combination of colors, which is quite relieving. And then the next step, and this is why we want to use this model as a tool, is how to apply it appropriately in their job, in their daily lives. And the way to do it is to pick up the signals for others, because this is the whole point of using the test. As we said at the beginning, we want to avoid conflict. And how do we do that? We moderate our behavior to someone else's behavior based on what we interpret from the signals that we get from them. So if we see that we have a person from the client side, that they are bluish, we can't really avoid giving them information they want. We definitely need to accommodate this need and make them feel secure in the information that we give them. At the same time, we need to be strong enough, reddish, to be able to put a stop in this need. This is where we use the color mode. And everyone feels empowered when they understand exactly how to use it. It is one more tool to allow them to be much better in their daily tasks and performance.
Yeah. And do you also think that people can develop in a certain color? So they might be by nature more blue, but they want to move into the direction of a project manager, where you said a red color would be more preferable. Is it possible?
It is, absolutely. It comes with age and experience as well. When we are younger and we don't know ourselves a lot, or we try to find ourselves, if we do the test at that time, maybe we will end up with high numbers in one of the colors. But that may not necessarily be who we are as people, but what our need is to be at the moment in order to be able to do our next steps in our professional career. As we proceed and we become more confident and we have more professional experience and we know what's going on, not only we will develop in different direction, but we can adjust our behavior in order to be able to balance it out with the colors that we have from the other side. It is definitely a development.
Okay, very good. So what would be the top 3 lessons learned in terms of your communication training, and you want also to communicate with our subscribers and watchers of our movies?
What to do?
Yeah.
I would prefer to say what not to do, because it's easier to remember what not to do sometimes. We should be very mindful of how much we talk in comparison to how much we listen. We have a tendency to talk a lot and we don't listen enough. And this is a major problem, because when we cannot stop talking, we interrupt the process of listening, which means that we do not allow the other person to have the space to express themselves, and we cannot be productive. We need to think of nature as well. We have 2 ears, 1 mouth. So it's easy to stop talking a lot and listening more. One more thing that we should not do is assume. This is a major problem. Most of the time we assume about the other person, about their position, about their knowledge, about their understanding, and this again can backfire. We need to be very specific with our instructions. When we delegate something, we definitely need to make sure that the person has the bare minimum essential information they need in order to perform their tasks, and not wishy-washy information there. It's good to know, but it's not essential for the person. And when we are on the receiving end, we need to cross-check that we've got everything correctly. We need to make sure that the expectations of the other person are clear to us. Timelines, exceptionally important as well. Again, assumption should be out of the question. And the most important thing that we should not do, we should stop thinking that one-size-fits-all communication is the best approach. We need to always remember the cultural differences, how different people are accustomed to run business in a different way. We need to acknowledge all these differences and adapt our communication style. This is the most important thing for me. Open our eyes, we function on an international level, and we need to respect these differences. It can only help us move ahead and be successful in our work.
Yeah, so to be a little bit adaptive.
A lot adaptive.
A lot.
Acceptive at the beginning, very open to acknowledge the cultural differences and whatever comes with these and affects our communication and impairs the communication, be aware and then adapt.
Yeah. And I think there the most important is the awareness how important communication is.
Indeed. Communication is like the circulatory system in our bodies. It's like the blood flowing. The heart pumps, the blood is flowing, oxygen goes everywhere. If you stop it somewhere, you stop it here, you will lose your finger. It's the same thing with the communication within the companies. You cannot exclude any member of the team.
Okay, nobody likes when the finger dies, so it's an important topic for sure. Otherwise, it would also be an adverse event, as we know from clinical research.
Indeed.
Thank you very much for sharing all the information with us. I completely agree. Communication is the key, especially in clinical research, especially in international business. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. I think we have managed to communicate in a very effective manner today.
Yeah, thank you. And I also hope that you liked our communication video and you agree that communication is important. So please keep sending us your comments and questions. Also send us new topics for videos we can produce for you. Keep in mind that we are doing the videos for you, not for us. And subscribe our channel. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.